What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Sixers Digest YouTube channel. My name is Barnard. As always, I'm back. I've had a little time to digest the Kelly Oubre signing, and I'm here to dive in why this could have some larger implications on the Sixers and their stance on a James Harden trade. Now, before I dive fully into it, I would like to recommend that you guys make sure you're dropping a subscribe on the channel. That to this point in time, 93% of you guys watching have not subscribed yet. I want that to change. So we got some amazing plans coming up for the Sixers season. It is almost in full swing now, and I cannot wait to get it started, but I want you guys along for the ride. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and I'll continue churning out as much content as I can here. Now, we all know the news that Kelly Oubre was signed to a one-year deal with the Philadelphia 76ers, averaged 20 points per game for the Charlotte Hornets last year, and that last part of this tweet from Woj on the initial report could get significant opportunity on the wing with the uncertainty around James Harden. I think is particularly interesting. So for starters, and I'll put my take on this for Kelly Oubre specifically, we know who Kelly Oubre is and who he isn't. That he can be a shot chucker. He is not the most efficient player. And in fact, I'll pull up his shot chart here to take a look at some of the specifics. Shot just 30.6% on pull-up threes. Shot just 32.3% on catch-and-shoot threes. Both of those below the NBA average there. Non-corner threes, just 28.9%. Corner threes, 38.3%. That is a little appealing. That will likely be a strong usage point for him with the Sixers. He is a good finisher around the rim at 60.7%. Pretty solid there, 60th percentile. Better than a lot of guys on the Sixers when you think about James Harden, DeAnthony Melton, and more. There's a lot to like about Kelly Oubre, but he certainly has his flaws. Where I think this is connected to the James Harden situation is a couple things. For starters, Oubre is the type of player that can go up and down the rotation with little ease. That if they're, for example, if James Harden decides to sit out, if he's holding out, wants no part of these Sixers, you can throw Oubre on the court for 30, 35 minutes, and he's going to be productive for you. That he will fill up the stat sheet, he will get his, he will create his own shots, and he can do that. And to the same extent that if the rosters are packed, if the rotations are full, and you only got 5 to 10 minutes for Kelly Oubre, he can do that as well. That he can come in, provide a spark off the bench. This is a guy who could legitimately be the best scoring option for the Sixers since Lou Williams, and the guy who's the most traditional wing option on this roster that they've had in several years. Even beyond like a Danny Green, I would say Oubre is more of a traditional guy when it comes to his frame, his athleticism, and the way he plays. They've really lacked these style players over the past couple years, so I'm excited for him to be a part of the team from that extent. Now, the other side of the things is there is a little bit of beef between Kelly Oubre and James Harden. This dates back several years now, stuff that's mostly water under the bridge, but it should be noted that James Harden was frustrated with Kelly Oubre over a girl situation when James Harden was throwing a party. This dates back to way back in the day. And at this point in time, Kelly Oubre is now married to that same woman, and he has two kids with that lady. So hopefully the beef is resolved. I don't think this was a move by Daryl Morey to just make James Harden frustrated. I'm not taking it off the table based on how things have been between these two, but I think this was a basketball decision. That I do think Oubre was brought in to be a positive asset to this Sixers team, and there wasn't much thought in that specifically. And this is a business. This is a job at the end of the day. That we don't have to like each of our coworkers. We're here to do a job, whatever. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is this connectivity between Kelly Oubre and the Miami Heat throughout this offseason. That the Miami Heat are widely expected to sign Kelly Oubre if they eventually trade for Damian Lillard. This has been reported by Mark Stein a number of times throughout this offseason. I have read the official report from Mark Stein. I did like this graphic, so I did pull this out here, but there is a little more in-depth on it. I primarily took this to mean that they would essentially be emptying the tank when it comes to their roster if they were to make that Dame Lillard trade. We're talking about guys like Tyler Hero, guys like Caleb Martin, all be included in this deal. Kelly Oubre Jr. would be a pretty seamless plug-and-play fix to that deal. That you could find a way to give him those minutes that those guys that you were trading away would be leaving on the table. So that's kind of how I took it. But something that I do think is interesting is maybe there is a little connectivity between Kelly Oubre and Dame specifically. And something that I wanted to bring up, a recent report here, this by Mark Spears, is that a mystery Eastern Conference team has held trade talks centered around Dame Lillard. Quote, I'm kind of hearing rumors about another Eastern Conference team that I'm not going to throw out there just yet. Now, I'm not saying that, Daryl Morey is this mystery Eastern Conference team, or the Sixers are this mystery Eastern Conference team. But what I can say about Daryl Morey is he is a star-motivated general manager. That when he sees the best players becoming available, he does make those phone calls. And frankly, he would not be doing his job as a general manager if he wasn't at least asking. And when you think back, you take everything out of the equation and think about the best two players in the NBA that have made it very clear that they want no part of their organization, is Dame Lillard and James Harden. Now, a one-for-one swap does not make sense here. Obviously, the Portland Trailblazers are mainly interested in building for the future at this point, that they have a really intriguing young core around guys like Scoot Henderson, like Anthony Simons, like Shaedon Sharpe, that they have this young talent, that's the window, that adding James Harden to that mix doesn't necessarily make sense. But Dame Lillard to the Sixers absolutely does. That when you think about guys to pair with Joel Embiid, guys that can continue this mentorship role to Tyrese Maxey, Dame Lillard's pretty much a perfect fit for that guy. And we've talked about the Dame Lillard as a potential trade candidate for years now. He obviously has not dug his heels in and wanted out of Portland until this season. And he's also made it quite clear that Miami is his only goal. There's been quotes floating out that he will only report to camp if it is Miami. I am 100% confident, based on all the sentiment of the league, that would not be the case if he came to the Sixers, that the expectation would be for him to play, and Adam Silver would very publicly and make it very loud and clear that he is backing these Sixers on this issue, because we are at a little bit of a breaking point when it comes to those contractual obligations. We've seen the fallout with the Ben Simmons situation. We're seeing it again with the James Harden situation, with fines already being dished out for comments that he's made and everything else that could still unfold as training camp approaches. But when we talk about a potential trade happening, the NBA as a whole has basically been frozen, just in a chokehold over the news of the James Harden and Dame Lillard, of their trade requests, of the rumors, of the reports, just waiting for something to actually happen. That all this offseason has been some he said, she said between agents, between teams, and just waiting to see what the ultimate conclusion is to these deals. I do think that there's something connected between the James Harden and Dame Lillard trades. And I'm not saying that there's going to be a Sixers and Trailblazers deal, but it just feels like both of these issues are destined to be finalized through a multi-team trade, and it makes even more sense if they're connected to some extent. I see a 3 or a 4-team trade popping up where there are discussions had, and I know that Daryl Morey is probably trying harder than anyone to make sure that is the case. So who knows how much there is connected, but I do think that Oubre signing coming in at this point in time is a little bit significant. That I think this provides a lot of options for the Sixers when it comes to that. Their roster, they have a guy who could be climbing in, being somewhat of an innings eater pitcher where he can just get more shots up, get more touches if needed, but he's also a guy that could be falling down the bench. So I think this overall is an awesome signing for the Sixers. I'm really intrigued to see what this means moving forward. It feels like all these signs around the back end of things are inching toward some sort of trade occurring, whether that be Lillard, whether that be Harden, whether that be both, which I'm absolutely putting on the table. But it should be noted that there has been some connection. Oubre has very much been mentioned within the same whispers and the same rumors as both of these deals. So for now, we will have to sit back and wait what happened. But who knows if Kelly Oubre could very well be the missing piece in linking a trade to ultimately occurring. For now, I appreciate you guys for watching this video, for checking things out. As I mentioned, make sure to hit a subscribe on the channel. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think, how you ultimately see the James Harden situation being resolved, and if you have any change of feelings on Kelly Oubre as a whole. I dropped my initial reaction already on the channel. That is out there that you can check out as well, and I'll be back with some more content moving forward. Thank you guys once again, and peace.